What's up? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I wanted to kind of tell a story, talk about myself, and something that I would say is like been one of the biggest points of maybe shame is the right word that I've kind of had for my entire life. And it's just something that I wanted to share. I shared this on Instagram and it seemed like it really reached a lot of people and a lot of people appreciated the story. And so with YouTube, I'm able to kind of expand on that story. I was in special ed basically from second grade, I believe, all the way up until I graduated high school, even a little bit in college, but we'll get into that. So for me, growing up, I started struggling in school like almost immediately once we started getting into like multiplication, right? I really struggled. I remember when I was in like first grade, I would come home with like math homework and stuff, and I would get so frustrated that it would make me cry. This is still something that I do when I get really frustrated. I kind of cry, I guess. I don't know why I do that, but that's just something that I've always done. And I also like really shut down. So like I would either cry or I would just act like I would just basically disappear. I would just shut down. Everything doesn't exist anymore, and I was just in my own world. And so my mom started to notice this, and then she had her own I think insecurities, but she was worried about me, and she was really trying to do her best to give me the best life that she could. So a little bit more backstory. So growing up, we were really poor, and I was actually taken away from my mom when I was really young. And luckily we were put back with her after about a year. We were taken away because she was a drug addict. She got clean off of drugs. She was meth was her main thing. She got clean off of drugs, and we were put back with her, and everything was hunky-dory, right? But we were also like really poor. And so my mom had a lot of I think shame, and a lot of like she just wanted to do what was best for me. So she was like really trying to figure everything out. And I actually started school a little early. So I graduated high school when I was 17, right? And so most people graduate when they're 18. So I was always just like a little bit younger than everyone else that was in my classes. And so one of the first things that they kind of maybe thought about doing was holding me back, right? So in America, I don't know if this really exists other places, but if someone's really struggling in their school life, they might hold them back. So they, maybe have a little bit more time to catch up. Maybe it's like a developmental thing or something like that. We didn't end up doing that, which I would say I'm grateful for, because then my whole life would have been different. But we started looking into diagnoses, like what's going on. And so I remember we did a ton of like tests with these people that would come to the school, and I would like talk to them, and I would do little tests. And I actually recently got access to all of the notes they took to decide that I would be diagnosed with ADD. So I was diagnosed with ADD when I was like 7, I think. I don't remember. Whenever I was in second grade. And so that's attention deficit disorder. I don't think that really exists. Like it's just a section of ADHD. But so I was diagnosed really young. And on top of that, my biggest like thing that I struggle with is more than anything is my writing. I have something called dysgraphia as well. I don't fully understand it, but basically I can they even said in my IEP, so IEP stands for, I'm kind of all over the place. So IEP was what they ended up giving me, which stands for, I believe, Individualized Education Program. And in these notes that they took to find my diagnosis and decide what they wanted to do with me in terms of school, they gave me the IEP, and they basically, but in these notes, they were talking about how they were like, he's really good and almost above in his like speech and being able to talk and like express how he's feeling and all this stuff, but his writing and his reading is not the best. And so because of that, reading and writing, I really struggled in school, because especially then, late 90s, early 2000s, yes, I'm that old, that was like the main focus, at least it felt like for me. And so I always struggled in school so much. And then by second grade, I ended up getting my IEP. I think I stayed in basically normal classes up until I got into middle school. And in middle school, I was placed in like the special education program. And the program that I was in, though, wasn't really for, kids that had like really severe disabilities. It was a lot of times it actually ended up being people that had similar disabilities as me, but also maybe had like behavioral disabilities. They were not listening much to teacher. And so a lot of my classes were very wild. A lot of the kids were very disrespectful and stuff like that. So that happened. That was my entire, junior high, high school. I remember, like, it was just rough. Like, I had this belief that I was stupid, right? And this is a belief that I still hold. Okay, if I'm being completely honest, I still hold this. I truly believe that I am dumb, right? And I know people are like, oh, you're not. I'm not saying this to get like anyone's sympathy. I'm just trying to share how I feel, right? And so, all throughout high school, what this ended up turning into was, because I believed I was stupid, it just made it so I just didn't try. Because it is much more embarrassing to try and fail than to just not try. At least it was to me, right? Especially high school John. And so I just didn't try. Like, the amount of times I did homework in high school is very low. I just didn't care. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I acted like I was too cool, but it was because I was scared of failing. I was scared that I wouldn't understand. And I think to a certain degree, I was just genuinely pretty lazy. But I just did not try very hard. It actually came to a head when I was a senior in high school. They basically said, like, dude, if you don't figure this out, you are not graduating with your class, which more than anything would have been embarrassing, because there was like things in my high school called super seniors. It was basically kids that did not graduate when they were supposed to, that are in a 5th year of high school, or maybe even a 6th year of high school, right? Which I was like, okay, I don't want that. And so luckily, at least in my school, they're all about funding. And so if kids get held back, that's not good. So they want kids to graduate, right? And so they gave me 2 different classes that were basically just makeup classes, where I'd go in. One was electronic, and then one was packets. And I would go into these classes and I would just work on packets. But basically, like, when I'd finish a big packet, that was an entire class, right? So like the only reason I graduated with my class was because I took like, a year and a half worth of work in like a few months in both of these classes. But I ended up graduating, and then I was like, okay, the next thing you do is you go to college, which was genuinely very scary for me. And so when I got into college, I was like, okay, what do I want my major to be? I was like, I don't care. At this point in my life, I did not care about literally anything other than music, okay? I was a big drummer. I still drum occasionally, not very much, but I was really into drums. That was like my passion. That was like who I was, right? My first Instagram name was Drum John David. My first, I think my Reddit name is Drum John David. Like, it was everything to me, okay? And so I was like, okay, I'll do a music major, okay? And so I went to college, and I took 2 semesters, so it ends up being a year. I dropped out before I started the 3rd one. And I took like music classes, I took some history classes, I took Spanish, and I'm almost positive the professor passed me because I was just nice and I would act like I was trying, but in reality I was like, I have no idea what's going on. But I would just sit there during the test and like wait to try and be like one of the last people there and like look like I'm really trying. I don't know, man, but I'm almost positive that guy passed me because he was like, he was a nice kid. I don't want to deal with him again. But I ended up never taking a legit math class or a legit English class when I was in college because I was just too afraid. I was too afraid. Like, I was like, it's going to be too hard. And again, maybe I was just lazy, but I was like, it's going to be too hard. I'm not going to be able to do it. It's going to be clear that I'm too dumb for this. And I was just too afraid. And so eventually I dropped out of college. It was just community college, but I dropped out of college, and that's when I started working. Got my first job at the Vans shoe store, which I still wear Vans like every day. I love those shoes, but started working at the Vans shoe store. Then I got a job at Vaughn's. So I was working at Vaughn's and Vans, and then I worked 2 jobs for quite a bit, and then eventually, things happened. I made YouTube, and then this became my job. But I've been doing YouTube now for too long, for like 9 years, 10 years, close to it, right? I've been doing this for a long time. And this is where it kind of ties all together. I've always, I've been giving advice and been trying to help people this entire time. But I've always been too afraid, honestly, to ever get a credential that shows that I know what I'm talking about. I've always felt in my heart that, especially after doing this for so many years, that I know the basics of nutrition, and I feel like I could help someone just as good. Maybe this is me being like thinking too much of myself, but like I could help someone just as good as like a nutritionist could, right? Which now that I understand, nutritionists really, especially in certain parts of America, can literally mean nothing because you could just call yourself a nutritionist if you're helping someone with their nutrition. There's no certification necessary. But that's besides the point. But I felt like I could help someone with their weight or with nutrition as much as someone that does have some training, right? But I never got the training because I was afraid. Right? Why was I afraid? Because I felt like I was too stupid. I didn't do well in school. I didn't do well in the regular, like in how school is set up. And so I never actually tried. And so the reason I'm telling you this story is because I am trying now. And so it's been scary, but it's been good. So currently I am taking the course from the NASM it's a certified nutrition coach. Okay. That's what it's called. And it's been going pretty well. I'm about halfway through the course now, and pretty much every single like module that I've done, I felt completely like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I would be reading through it and I'm like, yeah, I understand that. I totally get that. I know what that is. And just, that's been really, I guess, validating, maybe to my ego, but like to me as a person that all this work that I've put in over this amount of years that I've been doing this, I have actually learned, and I do know what I'm talking about, and I'm not stupid, right? I'm not dumb, and I can learn, but I just have to care. That's the biggest thing, is I have to care. I really have to care about the thing. If I don't care, I can't fake it. I can't just push through and just learn it anyways. If I don't care, there's just no chance, and I just have to accept that that's how I am. Like, as much as I wish I could learn like other people that like can just be like, oh, you know what, I don't really care that much, but this is just part of my major. It's like what I have to do. That if that happens to me, it's just game over. It's just not gonna happen. Like if I'm no longer interested, I'm just not gonna, do it. And so luckily with this course, pretty much everything has been pretty interesting. There's been a couple modules which I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in science class, I'm gonna die. But for the most part, it's been pretty like smooth sailing. And so I mean, maybe I'm releasing this video too early because I haven't passed the test yet or anything like that, but I feel confident that I'll be able to do it. But I just wanted to share this because when I talked about my special education journey and, these feelings that I have about myself on Instagram, I posted like a reel. I was really surprised at how many people resonated with it. And so I just felt like, why not like tell the whole story? I know it was kind of discombobulated. I don't script anything. And so, but I just wanted to tell that story. And I am genuinely excited about becoming a nutrition coach. I don't know if that means I'm going to start like coaching individual people. I don't know exactly what it means. I do want to use it in some capacity, but I don't know exactly what that's going to be. But I don't know, like, would you want coaching? Would you want to be coached? I don't know. Like, do you think it'd be better to do groups? Like, I have no idea. And so I guess maybe I'm asking you. I don't know. I wasn't expecting to say that, but if you have any advice on what you think I should do, please let me know. But I'm just excited. Like, this is something that I truly never thought I would do. I would see people, like, one thing people would always talk about, like, it doesn't happen as much now because I'm 30, right? But when I was younger, like, people would talk about the college that they go to, the degree they have, and all this stuff, and it would just I would just shut down because I just felt like I would either try and change the subject or I would genuinely probably, sometimes I would get like upset, not like angry, but I would just like want to leave the conversation because I felt stupid, and yeah, like hopefully that I can kind of grow out of that. But I just wanted to share that story, and hopefully if you're someone that struggles with something similar, or you do have an IEP, or you were in special ed, you have, I think ADD is neurodivergent, some neurodivergence like I do. Hopefully it's inspiring or at least like relatable. I'm not here trying to change the world, but I do think that sharing your story is important. And so that's my story. But yeah, if you have anything you want to say, leave a comment. But I appreciate you listening to me ramble. I'll see you next time. Peace.